On Monday, she takes a walk with Johnny. On Tuesday, she has a talk with Jim. On Wednesday, she likes to dance with Tommy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Index to Sex. I'm Lynn Ferguson, a big vanilla Scottish woman living in the San Fernando Valley, which is periodically very hot, but rarely in a sexy way. And I'm joined by my pal, Sephe Haven, at one point America's #1 escort. In each episode, Sephe delves into the index box of all of her past clients, and I ask her all the questions everyone wants answered. I'm lying. That's what I should be doing. What I'll actually be doing is assigning the anonymous client on the card a name and, clumsily, trying to understand a world which is completely foreign to me. Anyway, glad you could join us. On Thursday, she takes a chance with Tim. Hey, do you know what's exciting? I'm all the feels right now, Sephe. Not in a sexy way. I'm not all the feels in a sexy way, no offence. But
I'm sorry.
It feels like the air is full of tension and the world is like, whoa. So the thing that I think is kind of incredible is we're recording the last episode of our first series. Isn't that kind of amazing?
It is, we started from not knowing, just trusting that maybe it would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe talking about escorts and stuff like that might be interesting. But here we are, and it's been really fun, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people.
Have you? Have you got feedback?
Yeah, like people will write and say, one person said to me, I really enjoy listening on the train on the way to work. It's sort of like eavesdropping in on two ladies right behind me, but the conversation is good.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever been in the train and people have talked the way that we talk, or maybe they do. Some of the episodes that we've done, I think, have been quite innocent, really. And then there was one we did recently where I was like, oh, that's a bit saucy, even for us. But no, I think it's been really cool. So what I'm thinking is before we start the next season, we must ask people what they want to know about.
That's such a great
idea. What I mean?
I would love to hear what people want us to talk about, or if they have any, questions about anything.
Yeah, except don't ask either one of us about technology, because you'd be screwed there, and not in a sexy way, listeners, because we don't know anything about that stuff, do we?
Well, no, I didn't even know how to turn this microphone on until a few minutes ago. So, so that's, yeah. Yes. Not
right. So do you have a card for me, lady?
I do.
For this last episode of season 1.
I actually chose a very special card. Now, normally I would pull a card and not know the people anymore, or they could be, they were much older than me, so they couldn't maybe not even be on the planet anymore. But this card is somebody that I know lives on the planet, and I know listens to our podcast, and had his birthday yesterday. He was 95 years old, and I met him when he was 71 and recently widowed. And so our relationship goes on for 22 years or something like that. And spans all sorts of like the things that we did together, the places we traveled, the things we talked about, the fights we had.
Are you allowed to fight?
You wouldn't think so, but sometimes you do. I've only had a few fights, like arguments. I mean, not fist fights, obviously.
Not fist
clients,
fights.
And one of them was with him. And one client of mine I had a long time. This isn't the same person. I had a long time ago. I was working full time in New York under Sasha. I was #1 escort, and I had one client who I saw twice a week, and suddenly he got mad at me about something, and I can't remember what it was, but we ended up in couples therapy, which he paid for my time as an escort to be in couples therapy because he felt, and so I told this to a friend of mine who's from England, and he said, what? You're in couples therapy. I'm doing it bad. What? It's my terrible British accent. Couples therapy. What? Doesn't he know he can get another escort? I'm like, I know, but he wants to fix us. He's like, I'm like, oh, I know. I don't know. None of it makes any sense. So, but this person and I had a really long-term relationship. And at one point, we were traveling together as well. And on one of the trips, we got in a fight. And we thought we'd never speak again. We both ran to the airport and left in a huff, and it was totally, absolutely his fault because I have no reason to try to. Well, really, I'm an escort. It's not even like I'm his wife or girlfriend. Like, I'm not going to pick a fight, and so totally his fault. And then I was like, I tried to not have it become a fight, but at a certain point, even if you're a client, it crosses the line. And it just can't live with what you're saying and doing. And so I thought, well, then I guess we won't see each other. So we got on an international flight together and went home together, not speaking, and parted at JFK, not speaking, from the luggage rack. And then I think he called me. Maybe if you're listening, you can call it correct this. And you know who you are. You know who you are. And he finally, I guess, he sent flowers or something to break the ice, and with a huge apology. And then that was it. We didn't talk anymore about it until years later when we would joke about all the time of that particular fight, which was, because we were staying in a nunnery. We shouldn't have.
No.
So we probably.
That just seems. Is this the same guy you went to couples therapy with? No. This guy and you stayed? No, that's a different guy you went to.
This is a different one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you stayed in a nunnery? Was there not a point where you were like, oh, hang on a second, I'm going to get struck by lightning in here?
Well, the nunnery was my fault because we were going to go to Portugal as a trip, and we had planned like a 10-day trip, including the flying there and back. And I planned the trip for us. So we planned this city first and these many nights here, and, tried to pick lovely places and so forth. And the one of us stop was at this place called, oh God, what is the name of that little city in Portugal where it's all walled in, like this big castle? Bodo.
It's not Lisbon isn't walled in, isn't it? Lisbon's in Portugal.
No,
I don't. Portugal.
It's an old
Is it a city or is it a little thing? The only thing I remember about Portugal is that they have these chickens or roosters. Okay, I'm going to say it. They have these celebratory cocks that are everywhere, don't they?
I love when cocks celebrate. It's so wonderful.
You spent a career celebrating them, right? So was it the Portugal thing? You had the fight?
Yeah, so there was this beautiful old. People who've been to Portugal will know this place, and for some reason my brain is not bringing it up. But it's this beautiful old walled-in city with a castle and cobblestone streets, and it's just beautiful. But the place we picked to stay, I didn't know was an ex-nunnery turned into a little hotel. But the rooms were really spare, and right above the bed was a huge cross with, a lot of death.
Sexy times. Eh?
It was very austere, and but that's okay. That would have been fine even. But we had dinner planned for this castle, and before we went, we were walking down these cobblestones, and we ran into this bar that had sausages, like you could cook them on sterno. And
hello,
I know. Hello. And nobody wanted that at the moment because we were going to a lovely dinner at the castle. So we're all hungry. We're so hungry. We're hungry because in Portugal, we just came from Hungary, which the food was astonishingly good. We were so surprised at how good the food was. Our Hungary trip, I got there at 102 pounds and I left at like 130. Like my breasts were part of my chin when we left. I ate so much. So when we went to Portugal, we were kind of expecting amazing food. And we couldn't find any. So we drank a lot. Neither of us were drinkers really, but we ended up having an extra glass of wine or this with not much food. So in this experience, we get to the castle and they show us to a lovely table. It's so romantic because we're in this old castle where probably kings and queens fucked and died, and it's really beautiful. And we start with dinner, and first is horrifying. We kind of look at it and think, we order another glass of wine. By the time we're done, we can't, it's completely inedible. Neither of us are that picky. And it's inedible, but now we've had probably a bottle and a half of wine with no food. And it's all cobblestone streets and it's dark. So I take my shoes off and I'm thinking, and I'm a little tipsy. whatever. We've been together for 8 nights at this point, and he's a little tipsy. So I'm walking down the cobblestone and I'm doing cartwheels in my dress, and we pass the sausage place, and I'm like, we should go into the sausage place. So we do. Starve, and they pile us up with all these huge wieners. Give us sterno, and we're cooking the wieners and burning them and eating them, and and just trying to fill that belly of alcohol. And we finally make it back to our room. Both of us are like filled with garlic and sausage and drunk, and we fall into bed, and I know it's going to be one of those, I just got to sleep. And around 6 a.m, which is only a couple hours later, he taps me on the shoulder, and he really wants to. And I'm like,
I see.
And I'm like, no, this is not the morning for that. And first of all, it's too early. And second of all, we need to wait.
I've already had too much sausage.
I've had my fill of sausage.
24 hours. No more sausage around these parts for me. Thank you very much.
That's right. But he got really upset. And I was like, come on. He's like, well, then he brought up this. And if you're listening, this is the way it actually went. And you were too drunk to remember, so I remember. So don't doubt me. But no, this is the way I was. He said, well, I paid for the trip, and so I should be getting laid at least twice a day, if not more. And I said, we have been on this trip, and you get laid enough. Nobody is deprived here. And if you miss one morning, that's what's going to happen, and you'll get it back. You can get it back. And he said, no, I think this is not acceptable. And I was so furious because suddenly he turned this wonderful vacation. And I thought I'm a nice, generous person, taking care of him in every way. And because we had one day that we missed, I was pissed. So I started packing, and then he started packing, and then we were arguing. I said, all right, you want to see what it's like to have sex with me when I'm not into it? Okay, come on. So then I did this whole, drama of like, okay, I'll be a hooker. You want a hooker? Here's a hooker. I'm acting up. He's acting up. We ended up going to the airport, and that was what the fight was about. But we made up.
That's funny. I have to say that sexy talk isn't really, I paid for this vacation and I should be getting twice a day. That's not sexy talk. Just as a rule of thumb, that if you're you want a bit of don't say I've paid for the holiday. Just that's not sexy
Some men
talk.
have to be trained. This is another sort of like that, but I had a gentleman that took me to the Caribbean, and he rented this big, beautiful house right on the ocean, and the dock, could walk down bare feet on the sand to the dock and walk straight into the ocean. And, he would stand in the ocean drinking a Diet Coke, which, okay, I don't get it, but all right. And we got to the place first, and we got there a little late. So maybe 7 p.m. It was already dark. You couldn't really see that much. And I was hoping we would just put our bags down and go get something to eat. And I said, how about if we just go to the restaurant that we just passed? And he said, yeah, but you need to check the refrigerator. And I said, oh my God, did you just stock are we going to cook here? What are we doing? He said, no, just go look at the refrigerator. And I said, okay. So I go to the refrigerator, and there's a big sign on it that he's taped to the refrigerator, handwritten, that gives my schedule. And at the time, my name was Sasha. So it's Sasha's schedule. Starting from when we check in, the first thing was blowjob before dinner. And then 6 a.m., wake up, because he's going to go for a walk on the beach. When he comes back, first blowjob of the day. And I was like, okay, God. I'm going home right now. This is not going to work. Because normally he probably would have got all those yummy things. But to put it on the schedule and make our whole vacation this one big transaction, was so gross. So we changed that. But it was such a surprise. And I thought, wow, you're such a cad. What a cad move.
But then, like with that guy, because that I've questioned this during the stuff, and you've been like, no. Like with that particular guy with the, before breakfast blowjob, there's your schedule on the fridge. that I'm suspecting that he maybe wasn't brilliant in relationships just generally? Or was it that he had a lovely life with lots of people who knew what a great guy was? Or was he just rubbish generally and you had to train him how to be like, to talk to people?
I don't know. I think, I don't know. I think some men just, when they're seeing an escort, they're paying money for sure. So they want to make sure they get their money's worth for sure. But it doesn't need to be spoken of in that way,
Yeah.
And part of it, I mean, I had seen that guy from the Caribbean guy for over a year already. So he was obviously okay with whatever was transpiring between us. So there was no need for that. I mean, I guess if it was a new guy and he didn't kind of know, I would have to reassure him that, don't worry, you're going to be happy all day long. Don't
I think there is a thing though with some people. Like I had this discussion with my son the other day because he was angry at himself. Well, he was angry, just generally. He was angry at this thing that had happened, and I went through to talk to him and I said, it's you got to have your feelings and having your feelings good, and we were talking it through, and then he said, I feel stupid. That's why I'm angry. I'm angry at myself because I feel stupid and I feel weak and I feel vulnerable.
That's amazing that he has that self.
He has it. Yeah. Well, it took a while to get there. Before we got there was a lot of and then finally, when we burned out whatever the problem was.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder with somebody like that where he's standing with his feet in the ocean, drinking his Diet Coke, or was it a Coke or a Diet Coke?
Diet Coke.
Oh, I am judging him harshly just for that.
No, my God.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry. I don't care. You Diet Coke drinkers, you drink your Diet Coke. But there's the idea of you've got all of nature right there in front of you. The universe is dancing, veritable dances in front of you. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to drink a big can of chemicals that doesn't make my ass big, but rots my gut.
I know, right?
Anyway.
No,
advertising for Diet Coke.
You're on.
But I wonder that maybe what happened was that he felt vulnerable. That he was like, I have paid for someone to come on vacation with me, so I have to make sure that she knows that I am the dominant party, and I could buy people like her anytime, like going that way, because it's his own vulnerability, his own kind of shame in a way. Do you think it's shame?
Shame? No, I think and who have escorts, they don't feel ashamed about it. In my little world, everybody knows what we're doing, and there's no outside world shame placed on it.
Yeah.
Once in a while, when I was working, I would know somebody who had a lot of shame about it, but it was pretty rare.
But I don't even know that I don't mean even in like an escort situation that it's that kind of shame. Like relationships are really weird. You watch people think they are weird though, right? Where it's like when you watch people and that somebody's got some story going on in their head and they've decided that it makes them vulnerable. And so they just behave like a douchebag to their partner. And it's that kind of shame where you're like, I don't know what it is you're ashamed of or what you're bothered about or what kind of ghosts or ghoulies and not sexy ghoulies are coming to haunt you when you're standing there with your can full of chemicals looking out at the ocean. But clearly, can we talk this through? Anyway, but did you stop seeing him after that trip?
No, we didn't. I stopped seeing him late. So I used to go with him all the time to this island in the Turks and Caicos called Providenciales. And it was the part of the island. Well, now Turks and Caicos is built up huge, but at that time, it was this beautiful, almost deserted island with a few resorts on the other side of the island. Where we went was just where homes were, that were these little, we didn't even have screens. So we had to have we had to coat ourselves in cedar oil before we went to bed so we didn't get eaten by mosquitoes. So it was really raw and beautiful. And I felt like a mermaid there. And he and I did several trips together there. And I think we just, part of this was my fault too, but I think we just annoyed each other at a certain point. I don't know why. I think we just, things that he wanted from me started to annoy me, and me being annoyed him. And so eventually we did get in a fight. That's another fight at into the Turks and Caicos. And this was a weird fight because he was really mad at me. He's like, you should just go home. And I said, okay, but I'm not giving you back your money because I'm already out here and I planned for the time. And you want to get mad at me? Get mad at me, you know? And he's like, you have to give it back. I said, I'm not going to give it back. And at that time, his whole family came into town down there because he had invited them on vacation. And they just arrived, and he'd had no reason for me to leave because they're all being introduced to me as his girlfriend. So if I left in a huff, it'd be awfully weird. So I spent the time there, and we had a manicure pedicure night where I did his mom's toenails and his father's toenails. And, just we all sat and played cards and did toenails, and, and they're like, she's so lovely. I love her, and he's seething. And I feel really bad, like looking back on it. I don't remember why he was annoying me and why I was annoying him, but I feel bad that both of us couldn't have gathered it together and treated each other differently, so that we didn't part.
Do you know, though, I think that's, and like, not only is that relationships where like you just sometimes annoy each other. Like, I can get annoyed. I don't because my husband is adorable. But in the past, when I've been with people, because I was in relationships before I met my husband, but I could get annoyed at somebody just for their annoyingly shaped head or the way that they moved. You know what I mean? Like, once the rot sets in, you're just like, God, I hate the fact you've even got fingernails. Like, you can just get mad at somebody for something.
I think I think it was kind of that. I think it was like the Diet Coke and the fact that he didn't wear socks with his loafers, and that he had this sort of, white privileged feeling about him. And also that he was kind of looked a little bit walrusy, which I thought was kind of cute because, walruses are cute. But there was just a sense of him not ever, he wanted me to be his girlfriend, but he didn't really want to treat me like a girlfriend, just more like his civil servant, or something. And so I think there was a disconnect there. And I'm like, I'm happy to be your girlfriend. You're still putting notes on the refrigerator when my blowjobs are timed. That's not. Yeah. That's not good.
No, that's not sexy talk. That isn't sexy talk. And husband, if you're listening, don't even think about it. It's not sexy talk. No. There will be no notes about blowjobs on my refrigerator. That's not happening. When we're going to the Costco, that might be on the refrigerator. Blowjobs, not no. No, so we're still in touch with the. Hey, the other thing about the Portugal thing, did nobody even say to you sardines? Because what I remember about Portugal is sardines. I mean, I'm not even a particularly fishy person, but I will tell you, sardines are fine in Portugal, right? Did you not do the sardines in Portugal?
It's so funny you said that. I'm having such a sardine week. It is so weird. Yeah, I'm having a sardine week. So my dad was a crazy health person, which was wonderful. And he used to carry in his breast pocket a can of sardines everywhere that he went.
No.
To everywhere, to the gym, to everything. He carried this can of sardines. And one day I said to him, what's with the sardines? And he said, well, they're my emergency sardines, which of course you're thinking, when is there a sardine emergency? I don't know. He has one in his head. But he carried them because what you said, like, you can always turn to sardines in a food emergency. And there were times that he went into a restaurant and couldn't get the type of food that he wanted, or it was cooked away that, he was really puritanical about what he ate. So he would just pour the can of sardines on his plate and call it a day. So then, fast forward, my dad passed away. And out of nowhere, my daughter suddenly called me and she said, hey, Mom, guess what I'm eating? And I said, what? And she said, sardines. And I said, why? And she said, I don't know. Something you want to eat sardines. Now, all she eats is sardines. So I had to buy her the kind that don't have mercury, or that don't, that keep track of the mercury. And I said, I think your grandpa is inside you, controlling you. It's a sardine thing. But I couldn't look at them. I mean, I couldn't neither of us, first of all, knew about that. Neither of us probably would have turned to sardines, but I don't know. But you're right. We were having a sardine emergency in Portugal.
Yeah. Do you know that? Of all the things that you've told me, and there's been quite a lot in this series, the thing that I think might be weirdest is carrying about a can of sardines in case of an emergency. That's not even. And also, if I was in an emergency, I don't, who knows? But I can't picture myself going, oh no, there's an emergency. Where's my sardines? I can't see that being a thing.
My dad, that was
he a particularly fishy person, your dad? Did he enjoy the fish?
No, I think he was particularly health oriented, wanted to make sure that he was eating exactly the right things. And, he would get up at around 4 a.m, and we would hear him do yoga in his Speedos. So we didn't want to get up and interrupt that.
That's worse than Diet Coke in the ocean. Yoga and Speedos, that ought to be criminal, man.
Well, and you didn't really walk into the living room then. But around 5 a.m, then I'd hear my dad put a cast iron skillet on the stove. This is, in the middle of the night practically. And you smell organ meats. And he was cooking hearts and liver. And then he would put it at the dining room table. This is now about 6 a.m. So it was hearts and liver smeared with raw almond butter and sardines. And I'd walk in the room and say, Dad, please, you can't, it stinks and you're under your Speedo and so forth. And he'd say, listen, daughter, give me a break. Sit down. Have some sardines.
No. Well, no wonder you were able to deal with weirdos, because that's weird. I have to tell you. Your dad's probably a lovely man, but that, frankly, is weird.
He's a bit eccentric. He was a bit eccentric. I'm not going to say weird, but I'm going to say eccentric.
So the fight that you had in Portugal, you all made up and that was fine. Did you ever go on vacation with that guy again? Or did you go, no, we'll fight if we go on vacation again?
Well, we didn't go. We had been overseas several times together. We went to St. Bart's and we went to Hungary. We went to Portugal. But then we just took trips, really lovely trips, around the country. Like we went to Vermont to go leaf peeping. We went to Boston. We went to, different areas of the country together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does he have initials? Do we have his initials?
No, I can't give the initials, but you can. He is a lovely person who I love madly. I've known him 20-something years, and I'm so grateful for it because we grew into dear friends who still saw each other. And then the last time we were together, we had a huge bathtub in the room because he splurged on a big suite, and we filled it up so much with bubbles that he ended up sinking under the water. And all I had was just his face, just his eyes and his nose and a mustache. And it's the funniest picture. It's like bubbles have a face. So we had great times together. And he, aside from that, goes in between seeing me back in the olden days, he would go bird watching 5 to 8 weeks or something with tour groups. So he went all around the entire world and saw countries nobody sees. And I think he's seen, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but probably almost 7,000 species of bird, which is fascinating. And the really nicest thing is when I finally was going to do my solo show, I've been talking about it since I met him and before that even. And he actually flew in to see the show and gave a donation and was so nice. And also another incredible thing he did was in Naples, Florida, when I had lost all my money from the woman contractor who stole everything. And I was just trying desperately to keep things afloat, but maybe not so well. I didn't realize how much I was drinking and smoking cigarettes. And I guess he came to see me down there and we had fun there. But years later, he said to me, you were not in good shape. You smoked packs of cigarettes and drank an awful lot. And it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I didn't know that you had to put up with that, but so he's stuck with me for a long, long time. So his birthday was yesterday. It was the first year in about 2 decades that I haven't seen him on his birthday. But that was all built up from us meeting each other. And, we remained friends and lovers and clients and, client escort. And now he's just in my heart. So I think that's the best thing that could happen as an escort, is to have people that you end up loving that end up loving you. It's amazing to me. Because then there's people who don't do that, of course,
I think that that's a nice way to end this season, which is that it's a different way of thinking about love, maybe, but also that, like, when we started doing the season, I was like, it's all going to be big warty men with like blah, 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 writing lists and putting them on the refrigerator, like first blowjob of the day, 6 a.m. And there definitely have been those guys. And also like people with really bad underwear and, the thing about getting arrested and like there's a whole load of stuff.
Yeah.
That's, a variety, but I think it's a really nice way to end the season just by talking about a relationship that in the end, relationships develop, and some develop in a positive way, some end, and this was a good one.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to the man with the no initials. I'm going to call him the man with no name. So that's the last episode for this season, lovely peeps. And Sephe and I would love to hear your thoughts, good or bad. We can take it. We can take it if you just want to send us abuse. We've had worse things. You know what? Sephe's had to hang out with somebody who stands in the ocean in the morning and drinks Diet Coke, for God's sake. And any suggestions and things that you would like to hear in season 2, we'd love that too. But until then, we will say a farewell and au revoir. Do you want to say au revoir?
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm so happy that people are listening and actually writing me and telling me what they like and how much they've enjoyed it. And I would love, like you said, to hear questions, because people ask me questions privately. They say, what about love in the escort world? What's the dangerous things? Have you ever met a girl who did this or a guy who did that? So it would be really nice if they wrote that to us so we could talk about it.
Awesome. All right, lovely ones. We will see you next season.
Yeah.
You have been listening to My Index to Sex, produced by Ferdal LLC. The music was performed by Chesney Hawkes, and you can learn more about Sephe Haven at sephehaven.com. Go to mitspodcast.com to check out the show notes for more details, including how to stay in touch, give feedback, and ask questions. All the best.
Sunday's my only time with that bozo of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.